Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said today they have grown more powerful in certain parts of the Middle East recently. In fact, just last weekend, an ISIS suicide bomber murdered 63 people at a wedding in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul. The State Department said earlier this month that an ISIS affiliate has killed close to 800 people in Afghanistan in the past year. So why are we still in such a terrible and messy situation 18 years later? Is there any way for us to get out here with me to discuss? Former CIA analyst and host of the Buck Sexton Show. It is Buck Sexton. So, Buck, the idea that we're going to get out is incredibly naive, but the Taliban certainly would like that, wouldn't they?
Well, the Taliban doesn't even recognize the official government, the elected government of Afghanistan. I mean, this is the real problem.
And they're not going to share power.
No, they're not going to share power. The Taliban is going to eventually make a play to be the government of Afghanistan.
Yes.
People don't want to say that right now. That's what they've been waiting for. That's what they have been fighting for this whole time, which is why right now they're negotiating with us to draw down our military footprint by about 50% or so. The idea being we would leave some counterterrorism strike force, maybe some other logistics and intelligence support in place, but leave the battlefield, leave the area of operations to the Afghan National Army, Afghan National Police. Let the security forces that we've been tending to and training for almost 2 decades now fight on their own. The problem is we're not really just fighting the Taliban. We're fighting the Taliban. We're fighting the Taliban on the Pakistani side of the border. We're fighting the ISI, helping the Taliban fight against us, as well as other interested parties in the Mideast.
Not to mention al-Qaeda, because certainly some of the al-Qaeda adherents sort of change teams and head over to ISIS, which, you know, it's again very naive to think that, well, we don't see much happening from ISIS. There's not really a caliphate, and there's not much happening in Syria, so we have defeated them. But that's not what happens. Even when some of these jihadists disperse, they still go somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, they've become radicalized, and a lot of them do believe, in fact, that they're part of some global caliphate. Even if it doesn't exist yet, they think that they're going to construct one. We have to make a decision here as a country. We can either take the risk of drawing down to the point where we are no longer in a position really to prevent the loss of territory from the national government in Afghanistan to the Taliban, or we can continue to be there and just kind of hope that we can prop this thing up and keep negotiating, keep talking. But as the president points out, we've been there for 20 years. I mean, the problem with ending an endless war is that there are going to be risks, but the alternative is continuing in your endless war. So I don't think there's any way to look at this. And by the way, there's a similar situation. You brought up jihadists. Yeah, Iraq and Syria, they're not all of a sudden completely empty of jihadist psychopaths. That's not going to happen in my lifetime. So
yes, and it's not like Syria has magically organized itself into a functioning country.
Yeah, and at some point we also have to recognize what really are our strategic interests in the region. How much do we care about some of these problems?
I think we are so far past that because we don't really have strategic interests there anymore. I think what this seems to be for the President and Secretary of State is pull out, declare victory, and have some talking point for the 2020 campaign.
I do think the President, you know, he's been saying this thing about we could win Afghanistan in a week.
What does that mean? What does it mean to win Afghanistan?
It's not correct. I think what he's trying to say, though, if I can try to translate Trumpian here a little bit,
sure,
is that if we do draw down and then there is a mass casualty terror attack planned from Afghanistan, a mass casualty attack on our soil, we're going to go back and it's going to be very ugly and we're going to lay waste to a lot of things. I think that's what Trump is trying to say, because if he had a way to win this war in a week, I would want to know what that would be. So
that would be great. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and the Taliban is not going to share power.
And in fact, the Taliban's in a stronger position. I mean, I was in Afghanistan a decade ago. The Taliban is in a stronger position now than they were then. So
my grandmother knit me an Afghan, so
why would they think that now they're going to get a better, that they're not going to be the ones that have their way in the end, given that we're trying to get out? So
we're going to try. There's no reason to be there. It completely sucks. We're damned if we do. We're damned if we don't. So we
got
to
go,
as well don't.
And even if it's ugly after we go, we got to go.
Even if it's ugly, my grandmother said, sometimes it's a really good dancer. Buck Sexton, thank you so much.
Good to see you.
You too.